For 30 years, I fought clay soil and weeds in my backyard, constantly frustrated by poor harvests. Then my neighbor, a retired biology teacher, showed me her indoor setup. Lush lettuce growing in plastic channels filled with running water. No dirt, no mess, no weeds, and growing faster than anything I'd ever seen. I was skeptical until she handed me a leaf right off the line. It was crisp, sweet, and incredible. That was my introduction to hydroponics, and it completely changed how I think about growing food. I know what you might be thinking. Isn't hydroponics complicated, expensive, and meant for scientists? I thought so too. But if kneeling in dirt is getting harder, your yard is too small, or your growing season is too short, hydroponics is surprisingly simple and deeply satisfying. Today we're covering 9 fantastic vegetables that thrive in popular home systems, from simple, electricity-free Kratky setups to deep water culture, NFT, and Ebb and Flow. Whether you have space on a kitchen counter or in a corner of your garage, these crops offer the best bang for your buck and make growing your own food a breeze. Let's dive in. 1. Lettuce. If there's one vegetable that was practically born for hydroponic growing, it's lettuce. This is the plant I always recommend to anyone who's just getting started, and honestly, even experienced growers never stop growing it because the results are just so consistently good. Lettuce thrives in what's called the Kratky method, which is about as simple as hydroponics gets. You fill a container with nutrient solution, you suspend your seedling so its roots can reach the water, and then you just let it grow. No pump, no electricity, no checking on it every hour. The plant drinks the water as it grows, leaving an air gap between the surface of the liquid and the root zone, and that air gap actually helps prevent root rot. It's elegant, it's low maintenance, and for someone who might have some limitations when it comes to heavy physical work in the garden, it's a genuine gift. In an NFT system, where a thin film of nutrient-rich water flows continuously over the roots, lettuce goes absolutely wild. You can go from seed to a full harvestable head of butterhead, romaine, or loose-leaf lettuce in as little as 30 days. Compared to the 60 or 70 days you're looking at in outdoor soil, that's remarkable. The varieties to look for are butterhead types like Boston and Bibb, which stay compact and sweet, loose-leaf varieties like Red Sales or Black-Seeded Simpson, and crisp romaine types if you prefer something with a little more structure. Water temperatures should ideally stay between 65 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and most lettuces actually prefer slightly cooler conditions, which makes them ideal for growing indoors year-round without needing intense lighting. One of the things I love most about hydroponic lettuce is the harvest method called cut and come again. Instead of pulling the whole plant, you trim the outer leaves and let the center keep growing. One plant can give you multiple harvests over several weeks. For a household of 2, a small NFT channel with 6 to 8 plants can keep you in salads almost indefinitely. 2. Spinach. Spinach is one of those vegetables that sounds simple but has a reputation for being a little finicky in the garden. It bolts in heat. It sulks in heavy clay. It needs just the right conditions to really perform. In a hydroponic system, you can control all of those variables, and spinach responds magnificently. Like lettuce, spinach is a cool weather crop and does best when the nutrient solution stays between 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Deep water culture, where roots are suspended in an oxygenated reservoir of nutrient solution, works beautifully for spinach, as does the Kratky method for smaller operations. The variety selection matters here. Bloomsdale Longstanding is a classic American heirloom that has excellent flavor and holds up well even if you let it get a little large before harvest. Thai is another popular choice, known for its disease resistance and upright leaves that make harvesting easy. For baby spinach, you can sow seeds densely and harvest the whole tray young, which gives you that tender, mild leaf that's perfect for salads or sautéing. One thing to pay attention to with hydroponic spinach is the nutrient solution's pH. You want to keep it between 6.0 and 7.0, with 6.5 being the sweet spot. Spinach is more sensitive to pH fluctuations than some other crops, so it's worth picking up an inexpensive pH meter and checking your reservoir every few days. This might sound like extra work, but once you get into the routine of it, it takes about 2 minutes, and it makes a real difference in your results. From transplant to harvest, you're typically looking at 3 to 4 weeks for baby spinach, or 5 to 6 weeks for full-sized leaves. That's a tremendous turnaround for a vegetable that takes twice as long in the average backyard garden. 3. Kale. Kale has had quite the moment in American kitchens over the last decade or so, and for good reason. It's nutrient-dense, versatile. And when you grow it yourself and harvest it young, it doesn't have that tough, bitter quality that puts some people off. Hydroponic kale is genuinely a different vegetable from what you find at the grocery store. Kale does particularly well in deep water culture systems, where the roots have constant access to oxygenated nutrient solution and can really spread out. It's a heavier feeder than lettuce or spinach, meaning it wants more nutrients in the water, so you'll want to follow a nutrient formula designed for leafy greens and keep your electrical conductivity, which is a measure of nutrient concentration, on the higher end of the leafy green range. Lacinato kale, sometimes called dinosaur kale, or Tuscan kale, is one of the best performers hydroponically. The leaves are long, dark, and deeply textured, and the flavor is rich without being overwhelming. Dwarf Siberian kale is another excellent choice, staying more compact and maturing a bit faster. Red Russian kale is beautiful, with its frilly blue-green leaves and purplish stems, and it tends to be milder and sweeter than some of the darker varieties. Because kale is a larger plant than lettuce, you'll need net pots with a bigger diameter, typically at least 3 inches, and more spacing between plants. But the payoff is worth it. A single kale plant in a well-maintained DWC system can produce for months. You harvest the outer leaves as they mature, and leave the inner growth to continue, and the plant just keeps pushing out new leaves. This kind of extended harvest is exactly what makes hydroponics so satisfying for home growers. You're not getting one big harvest and then waiting for the next crop. You're getting a continuous supply. 4. Swiss chard. Swiss chard is one of those vegetables that's always been popular in home gardens throughout the American South and the Pacific Northwest, but it tends to get overlooked by people who are newer to growing their own food. That's a shame, because it's one of the most productive and beautiful plants you can grow, and in a hydroponic system, it puts on a show. The colorful varieties, rainbow chard, bright lights, neon mix, produce stems in brilliant shades of yellow, orange, red, and white, and when you've got a row of them under grow lights or in a sunny window, they're genuinely stunning. But beyond the visual appeal, Swiss chard is incredibly productive. Like kale, it responds well to the cut and come again approach, and a healthy plant in a deep water culture system can produce harvestable leaves on a near constant basis. Swiss chard is slightly more tolerant of warmer temperatures than lettuce or spinach, which makes it a good option for growers who have a hard time keeping their growing space cool. It does best between 65 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit and prefers a pH between 6.0 and 7.0. For nutrient management, chard is a relatively forgiving plant, more so than spinach, which makes it good for growers who are still learning the ropes of hydroponic nutrient management. Start with a standard leafy green nutrient solution at around half strength and increase it gradually as the plants mature. Within 6 to 8 weeks, you'll have plants that are yielding more than you can use in a week's worth of meals, and the flavor is sweeter and more tender than anything you'll find in the produce section. 5. Herbs, basil, cilantro, and mint. I'm bundling herbs together here not because they're all the same. They're very different plants with different needs, but because collectively, herbs might be the single most practical reason to start a hydroponic system if you haven't already. The return on investment is hard to argue with. A bunch of fresh basil at the grocery store costs somewhere between $3 and $4 and is usually half wilted by the time you get it home. A single basil plant in a small Kratky jar on your kitchen counter will give you fresh basil for months for a fraction of that cost. Basil is arguably the star of the hydroponic herb garden. It grows fast, it smells incredible, and it absolutely loves the warm, controlled conditions of an indoor hydroponic setup. Sweet basil, Genovese basil, and lemon basil are all excellent choices. Keep the solution temperature between 65 and 80 degrees. Basil is a warm weather plant and will sulk if it gets too cold. And pinch off the flowering tops regularly to keep the plant producing new, flavorful leaves. Under a quality LED grow light, or in a bright south-facing window, basil in a DWC or Kratky setup will grow so fast you'll have trouble keeping up with harvesting it. Cilantro is a different story. It bolts, goes to seed, quickly, in warm conditions, which is one of the biggest frustrations of growing it outdoors in summer. Indoors, where you can keep temperatures cooler and control the light cycle, cilantro is much easier to manage. Use a continuous sowing approach, starting new seeds every 2 to 3 weeks so you always have young plants coming along. Cilantro prefers slightly cooler conditions than basil, somewhere between 60 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Mint deserves special mention because it's one of the easiest plants in the world to grow hydroponically and one of the hardest to kill. Spearmint, peppermint, and chocolate mint all do wonderfully in NFT channels or simple Kratky setups. Mint also has the benefit of propagating easily from cuttings. You can snip a stem, place it directly in water until roots develop, and then transfer it to your hydroponic system. For anyone who enjoys mint tea, which is both delicious and genuinely beneficial as we get a little older, having a continuous supply of fresh mint is a wonderful thing. 6. Cucumbers. Now we're moving into fruiting vegetables, and cucumbers are where a lot of hydroponic home growers start to feel like they've really leveled up. Growing cucumbers hydroponically, watching those long, deep green fruits develop on a well-supported vine, is one of the most rewarding experiences in this type of gardening. The key with cucumbers is the ebb and flow system, also known as flood and drain. In this method, your growing medium, usually hydroton clay pebbles or rock wool, sits in a growing tray that periodically floods with nutrient solution and then drains back into a reservoir. This cycle of wet and dry periods mimics conditions that cucumbers thrive in and promotes strong root development. You can also grow cucumbers in a large-scale DWC setup with good aeration. But ebb and flow tends to give cucumbers the environment they like best. The varieties that do best hydroponically are the European or seedless varieties, also sometimes called English cucumbers, like Tyria, Sandra, and Telegraph Improved. These are parthenocarpic, meaning they set fruit without pollination, which is important when you're growing indoors without bees. They also tend to have thinner skins and a sweeter, milder flavor than the slicing cucumbers most of us grew up with in backyard gardens. Cucumbers are heavy feeders and fast growers. You'll need to provide a trellis or support system. Simple vertical strings work perfectly, and train the vines as they grow. But from transplant to first harvest, you can expect cucumbers in as little as 5 to 6 weeks. And once they start producing, they don't stop until you tell them to. A healthy hydroponic cucumber plant in a well-managed system can produce fruit continuously for 4 to 6 months. One note on temperature: cucumbers like warmth. Keep your growing space between 70 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and make sure your nutrient solution stays in the 65 to 72 degree range. They're sensitive to cold, so don't try to rush the season by starting them too early if your indoor space is still cool. 7. Cherry tomatoes. Tomatoes are the holy grail for a lot of American home gardeners, and for good reason. A tomato grown at home, ripened on the vine, tastes like a completely different vegetable than anything from the store. Hydroponic tomatoes take that experience even further, because you're giving the plant exactly what it needs, when it needs it, with no competition from weeds or variation in soil quality. Full-size tomatoes can be grown hydroponically, but for home setups, cherry tomatoes are the way to go. They're faster to maturity, they produce more fruit per plant, and they're easier to manage in a typical home growing space. Varieties like Sweet 100, Sun Gold, Juliet, and Black Cherry are all excellent performers. If you want something compact that doesn't need as much vertical space, look for patio or dwarf cherry tomato varieties that have been developed specifically for container and hydroponic growing. The best system for tomatoes at home is a large reservoir DWC setup, or a drip irrigation system, sometimes called a recirculating drip system, where nutrient solution is delivered directly to the root zone through drip emitters and then collected and recirculated through a reservoir. This gives you precise control over feeding and keeps the root environment consistent. Tomatoes need more calcium and magnesium than some other crops, so make sure you're using a nutrient formula designed for fruiting plants, rather than the leafy green formula you'd use for lettuce or spinach. Keep an eye on calcium deficiency. It shows up as blossom end rot on the fruit and as browning on the tips of new leaves, and supplement with calcium-magnesium solution if needed. Most hydroponic nutrient lines sold at American garden supply stores and hydroponic shops include a CalMag supplement for exactly this purpose. Because tomatoes are indeterminate, meaning they keep growing and producing until something stops them, you'll need to provide robust support. A Dutch bucket system, where each plant grows in its own bucket filled with perlite or coconut coir and fed by drip lines, is one of the most popular commercial tomato setups in the country and scales down beautifully for home use. 8. Bell peppers and hot peppers are wonderful hydroponic subjects, and they're a particularly good option for growers who live in areas with short summers and don't always get peppers to fully ripen outdoors before the frost comes. Indoors, under controlled conditions, peppers will grow and produce fruit year-round. Bell peppers, both green and the ripened red, yellow, and orange versions, are popular choices, but they're slower to mature than cherry tomatoes, so patience is required. From transplant to first harvest on a bell pepper can be 60 to 90 days. Hot peppers, jalapenos, cayenne, banana peppers, tend to be more productive and a little faster, and a single healthy plant can yield an impressive amount of fruit. The Ebb and Flow system works well for peppers, as does the drip system described for tomatoes. Peppers want warmth. Keep your growing space above 65 degrees Fahrenheit and ideally between 70 and 80 degrees. And they need a long day length under artificial lighting, typically 16 hours of light and 8 hours of dark, to stay in their productive fruiting mode. One thing that surprises people about growing peppers hydroponically is just how long a single plant can live and produce. In a soil garden, you plant, harvest, and replant each season. In a hydroponic system, a pepper plant can be maintained for 2, 3, even 4 years if you keep it healthy and manage the root zone. For a home grower, that means you plant once and enjoy the harvest for a very long time. 9. Green onions and scallions. I want to end with something that might seem a little humble compared to the tomatoes and cucumbers we just talked about, but which I genuinely believe is one of the most useful things you can grow hydroponically, especially if you're cooking at home every day. Green onions, also called scallions or spring onions, are incredibly fast, incredibly easy, and incredibly versatile in the kitchen, and in a hydroponic setup, they're almost effortless. The simplest approach, and one that a lot of people don't even realize counts as hydroponics, is to take the root end of a bunch of scallions from the grocery store, the part you'd normally throw away, place it in a jar with a little water covering the roots, and set it on a sunny windowsill. Within a few days, new green growth emerges from the tops. Within a week, you have usable scallions again. This is technically a form of passive water culture, and while it's not quite the same as a dedicated hydroponic system, it demonstrates exactly why green onions are so well suited to soil-free growing. For a more productive setup, you can grow green onions from seed in a dedicated NFT channel, or a simple trough filled with a small amount of nutrient solution. Seeds germinate quickly, typically within 7 to 10 days, and you can have harvestable scallions in about 3 to 4 weeks from seed. Because the plants are so small and grow so close together, you can fit an impressive number of them in a very small footprint. The varieties most commonly grown in American hydroponic systems are Evergreen Hardy White and Warrior, both of which are vigorous, quick to mature, and have that classic scallion flavor. For something a little different, Crimson Forest produces beautiful red-tinged bulbs that are visually striking and have a slightly sweeter flavor. What makes green onions particularly valuable as part of a hydroponic vegetable garden is that they fill a gap. Between the weeks when your lettuce is growing and your tomatoes are ripening, your scallions are right there, ready to harvest, ready to add to everything from scrambled eggs to soups to stir fries. They're the workhorse of the hydroponic kitchen garden, and I'd argue that no hydroponic setup is complete without them. Here are 9 top crops for home hydroponics. Easy greens like lettuce, spinach, kale, and Swiss chard, fresh herbs, cucumbers, cherry tomatoes, peppers, and low-maintenance green onions. Hydroponics eliminates traditional gardening barriers like bad weather, limited yard space, or joint pain. Simple systems like Kratky, deep water culture, and NFT just give you direct control over water, nutrients, oxygen, and light. Beginners can easily start with a Kratky lettuce setup. Using a 5-gallon bucket, net pots, nutrients, a pH meter, and seeds, you can build a system for $30 to $60 and harvest fresh salad within a month. What crop are you growing? Or what's holding you back? Share in the comments. If this helped, please like and subscribe to Garden Crumbs for weekly growing tips. Keep growing, keep learning, and take care.